All right, so today I'm working on, got the pressure washer out. This is the transmission I'm cleaning up for a guy, for a truck, for Carlisle. And a few of my pieces that I need to power wash, excuse me, for before I dip them and sandblast them. Got a few more. Said I was going to use my ramps I made, but really don't want to put a ton of holes in those and kind of have them looking, you know, I try to keep things looking kind of decent around here because the people that come through with their stuff, and you know, try to look presentable if we can. But anyway, this ought to work. If not, I'll put some bricks there on the end and go from there. Hopefully have these cleaned today. You know, I didn't even realize today is March 1st. And man, the tailgate tour is 23 days away. So I got to get cranking. So let me do just that. Oh yeah, after I power wash it, I'm going to put some degreasers on it, take a little wire brush, kind of massage it around a little bit. My transmission, I taped everything off, sealed everything up, and I sandblasted it with one of those porta blasters. But I've got some paper towels in here, plus I'm going to bolt this down. I've got a yoke I'm going to slide in here. And of course, as long as you're not sticking the nozzle up in spots and whatnot, you're just fine. I've never had a problem. But you definitely want to check when you take this off, make sure none of the paper towels are soaked. If they are wet, then you know water got in, obviously. But if they're not, then you know there's no guessing. I wonder if some water got in here. If you have a transmission problem, that way you can rule that out. I'll say, well, hey, maybe some water got down in there or something. But never had a problem. So anyway, let me get started on that. So, not sure some speckles got on the camera or not, but anyway. So, give it a nice little once over. Get the bulk of it off. You know, anyone that knows, or anyone that's used the pressure washer knows, spraying irregular shaped objects, round objects, and just like a spoon in the sink, it's gonna splash back on you somewhere. Feet are a little wet, but it'll be all right. Next thing I'm gonna go over it, maybe get some degreaser or something like that. Probably doesn't need much because I'm gonna dip it anyway, but the bulk of it's gone. So gonna let these sit for a minute. Then I'm going to put some more pieces on it and go from there. Do a quick little video here. So I got things kind of cleaned up under here a little bit. That's about the best it's going to be, unless you want to get in there with little wire brushes and all that stuff. But I steamed it, put a little bit of degreaser on it, smeared it around with a little brush. Like someone will take the water pump off, so that'll be gone. It's still wet, so it's kind of dark looking, but I can live with that. You're not going to get too much done unless you spray acid or something in there, and that of course will help brighten the aluminum. They'll clean it, all that stuff, but I don't know. I mean, look at the rest of it. To do all that, then you're going to kind of get lost in it. So let this dry up overnight, put the new pump on it tomorrow, kind of smear some things around, go ahead, change the plugs all out, the wires and distributors, cap and all that stuff. Things that I can do without the front being on it. But I can live with this. It is what it is. Then once I get it back together, I might go ahead and re-pressure wash everything and just, you definitely don't want to let degreasers or any kind of acid-based anything to sit for too long, because it's gonna, I'd rather it look greasy and dirty than streaky. Some spots clean, some spots not, from putting something that's too strong in here and just letting it sit. Of course, I did use the hose a little bit in here to just kind of, like I said, I got some chemical here made up. And of course, smeared around with a brush, like I said earlier. But like I said, you get going too far. The correct way to do it is to take everything apart, blah, blah, blah. You know that. Again, how far do we want to go? Then you take the engine out, then you start doing that, then you may as well paint the frame, then you may as well, and then we got that. But that's what happens. But so anyway, today, I made a little pressure washing video earlier, but these are ready to be dipped and sandblasted, and these are ready to be sandblasted, and then I can get them powder coated. But much better than what they looked last night. Came out pretty good, I think. I mean, you could probably get some of that Eastwood makes a paint called Lumablast, and that's pretty good. AutoZone also has a paint. I might have the names mixed up, but one of them is a Lumablast, and it gives you that nice aluminum look. It's pretty durable. I've got some things I've painted, excuse me. I've got some things that I've painted with it before, turned out nice, held up decent. But I've got access to my powder coater. Some people have a lawyer on retainer. I've got a powder coater. So I'll probably do these in silver. Doesn't have to be anything perfect, but you know, it'll hide all of these little imperfections and all that. And it'll look good, be durable. But the spray paint that I was talking about is pretty good too. I've had no problems with it. So, again, it was in the 60s here earlier. I'm out here now and it's in the 30s. So, a little chilly. But, Here's what I have right now. This is the starting point. Of the transmission cleaning I do. This is the midpoint. And then this is the finish point. I have no problems with that. Of course, let me see, that's the silver I'll probably use because I have plenty of it. But that's powder coated as well as this. But this right here I did by hand. And what I did was I taped everything up very well. Checked everything afterwards. Of course, the bell housing this is powder coated, the silver I'm talking about. Then I sandblasted this with what they call a porta blaster. It looks like a suitcase almost, and it doesn't really have that same, I mean, it's throwing out sand, but it doesn't have that, to where I can't explain it, I guess. It doesn't have the volume that, say, like one of those big pot blasters would have. So you kind of can just kind of get in here and just, kind of just get into your little crevices and whatnot. Of course, secured all that, made sure nothing was getting in there, and double checked it and checked it again. What I did was I cleaned that out, smeared a little bit of grease in there by hand with my finger. You can use a little foam brush applicator, doesn't matter. Then when I was done, cleaned it up, I took that off. And I looked around in there and to see if I could see any particles of sand kind of glistening. Took my flashlight, whizzed around in there a little bit, and I did not. So, I mean, I've done this numerous times. I know when you do this kind of stuff, people come out the woodwork, oh, you should have done it this way, that's not the right way. And, hey, they might be right, but I've never had any issues. And I'm gonna keep on doing what I do. I've done a couple for people. They've had no issues. Is what it is. But yeah, this is what you start with. They all look like this, unless they're in some barn find truck or a truck that has not been driven, all that good stuff. But even still, you're gonna get that oxidation on your aluminum. That's just going to happen. If, like my 93 in there, that transmission has never been out of the truck. Of course, it used to be a daily driver up until like 2003. And everything's clean, but of course it's been on the truck since 1993. So it's got that look. Maybe not like, say, this bad or whatever, but it still has that, like something like that. Actually, that looks better than what's in my truck, actually, because I just cleaned this. But something that's driven, this actually came from a junkyard. I didn't even look to see how many miles was on the truck. But that's what they usually look like. There's no getting around that. And like I said, that's the middle. That's after cleaning it really well, pressure washing it, and just kind of going in there with your little wire brush. Not a wire, I don't use a wire wheel, but just a little brush and just kind of massage it around. Then I come back with some degreaser and just paint it. Use like an enamel paint. This is actually POR 15. And of course, it's not really a paint per se. It's POR, paint over rust. But as you see, this is not a super smooth surface, so it's going to adhere to that. And again, I've done it on numerous things and I've had zero problems, zero flakage, and that's that. So like I said, tomorrow, my friend, he's not feeling too well today, so I went ahead and cleaned these up myself, but I definitely have to dip those, then pressure wash them. I could put these in my cabinet and blast them. It'll definitely do it. But the cabinet I have is pretty big. You can put a fender in there, wheels. And the reason why I don't like doing that is because that's going to flake. And the box is so big, it's not like, say, a little small Harbor Freight box to where you can just kind of get in there and sift through it and get the little flakes of paint out. You've got to go in the bottom of this cabinet, drain everything, and you got to have a certain amount of sand in there for it to work, media. And so by the time you do all that, it's just, why not do what you're supposed to do? It might take an extra day of me waiting, whatever, but why not just go ahead and do it the right way on this? And that way you sandblast it, and you know, like you could get to like the third pulley or whatnot, and then all of a sudden your siphon is starting to get backed up or whatever, because you're picking up, you know, little bits of paint, little flakes of paint that shoot off as you're cleaning. So why not just dip it? But these right here, I can do these myself. I can go ahead and sandblast those. But yeah, so making progress. Like I said, I didn't realize how, one of those things that you realize and not realize. It's March 1st and the tour is at the end of the month. So I've got to get this rolling again. Like I said, didn't have to do a lot that I did. It's just one of those things. I'm kind of proud of myself for not going in too deep with it. So I'm good with that. That's about it. Yeah, like I said, it was in the 60s today, but now it dropped and it's blowing pretty good outside. So yeah, I'll be getting on my wheels again soon. I found 4 new old stock American Racing center caps for wheels like this. My hands are dirty, I don't want to touch them. They've never been slid through a wheel, so can't wait to get on that. I don't know, I shouldn't say that. I'm always messing with stuff, so I don't know, whatever I mess with tomorrow is what I mess with. So, but yeah, get this stuff back on. Actually, I think I said earlier, this transmission's for a friend of mine that's building a truck for Carlisle. So that's that. But yeah, I want to get everything back on by midweek, hopefully, maybe sooner than that. And then I can, like I said, get it fired up. I definitely need to put some miles on it. Some of my miles, especially after you're changing so many parts kind of at once. Sometimes you might find something that doesn't work as well as it should. You know, always a smart thing to do is change a piece at a time. So like, hey, you could put a new coil in and it might be a piece of crap. And then you're like, well, I know it's a coil because that's what I've changed. But when you change so much at one time, then, you know, the computer's kind of the computer has to kind of relearn. And then you might say, well, why is it running like this? Why is it running like that? Let me check this. It's just so many little things to check that you replace all at once, but we're gonna roll with it. But yeah, get that dip tomorrow and blasted. Save the alternator because it works. I just decided to buy a new one. Maybe a new clutch fan because it would be nice and pretty. But get the fan shroud cleaned up and hoping midweek we'll be back in her.